6.3, our 907 item, presentation of the current status and next steps of the Lake County Clean Water Program and stormwater management in Lake County. And it looks like Angela and Bonnie are here to present this. Thank you.
Do I have, okay, there we go, thanks. All right, thank you so much for having us today. We're gonna do a presentation on the Lake County Clean Water Program for you. In the chambers today, I have myself, Angela DePalma-Dow. I am a program coordinator through the Water Resource Department Watershed Protection District. I also have Bonnie Sharp here with me from City of Lakeport. Do you wanna say hi? Hello. Okay. And then we also have other Water Resources staff on Zoom. I believe Daniela is there. Daniela?
I'm here.
Okay. She is going to be operating our presentation today. And then we also have some City of Clear Lake, or City of Lakeport representative is Bonnie, and our City of Clear Lake representative, I believe, is Kylie Clark. Kylie, are you here? Or Mark Roberts from City of Clear Lake?
I'm here, and Kylie should be logged in as well.
Okay, thank you. Kylie is the Stormwater Program Coordinator at City of Clear Lake, and Mark Roberts is a planner over there. And I will apologize for the length of this presentation today. We haven't been able to do an annual presentation of this program since, I believe, before 2015. So we have a lot of time to cover, and so this will be a little lengthy program or review, and then we'll do annual updates that should be shorter. And I do want to say that I provided the board with a copy of this presentation before the meeting, and this presentation will also be posted on our website, the Clean Water Program website, in PDF form. Next slide, please. So this is the general outline of what we're going to be talking about today. We will be providing some background to describe how water quality is directly impacted or influenced by stormwater. And then we'll also talk about some program structure, accomplishments, funding sources, and some of the next steps. We do welcome question and answer at the end, but if any time the board has any questions today, you can go ahead and just let us know. And then there is something extra. We have this acronym cheat sheet. So stormwater programming, like most federal and then state and local programs, has a lot of acronym soup. So we've provided the board with copies of our acronym cheat sheets. We also have some hard copies here in the chamber for anybody present. And if anybody at home is zooming in, if you want to do a screenshot right now, so you have that and you could reference it. We'll do our best to spell out everything that we talk about, but in case we don't and we slip into some alphabet soup, you have this reference here available to you. Next slide, please. So first we're going to talk a little bit about the introduction and members of this group. Slide. Next slide, please.
The Clean Water Program covers not only a lot of area, but a broad scope of items. It was determined that having a management council would be beneficial in accomplishing the many tasks set forth in the program. The management council would not only be familiar with the jurisdictional codes and stormwater permits, but provide oversight and guidance to the work groups and coordinators as they work to accomplish the tasks set forth by the state, but also make decisions and provide recommendations to the Board of Supervisors and City Councils as needed. Next slide.
So these are some of the members of our management council. It is a multi-jurisdictional collaborative body because we share a common water body as well as several rivers that are tributaries to Clear Lake. So for the County of Lake Board of Supervisors representative, we have Eddie E.J. Crandall, our supervisor, with Supervisor Sabatier as our secondary. From the Watershed Protection District representative, we have Marina Delajanis with alternate Scott De Leon. For the County of Lake, I'm the Stormwater Coordinator, Angela DePalma-Dow, myself, with Daniela Cazares as my alternate. For the Lakeport City Council, we have Maria Turner. She's the current chair of the council, and Michael Green is her alternate. Also for the City of Lakeport, the Stormwater Coordinator, Bonnie Sharp, right here, and her alternate is Jenny Byers, Director of Planning over there. Clear Lake City Council is Joyce Overton, representative, and she's our vice chair currently, with Russ Kramer as the alternate. And then in the Clear Lake Stormwater Coordinator, we have Kylie Clark, with her alternate is Adeline Brown. And all of our
Everyone,
meeting.
I will be going over how you get to the Management Council documents. So if you go onto the Lake County Water Resources page, you could search it in the County of Lake website, Water Resources, and then you go to our top tab, and you select Programs and Projects, and then you can click it and you scroll down to the Clean Water Program, and then you scroll right to Management Council documents, and that will bring you to this page right here. You will find agendas, minutes, attachments, PowerPoints, and videos. And also, I would like to note that on our sidebar, we have water complaint forms, and it'll send you to relevant, you can send in a complaint for any illicit discharge or spill or dump site, and it'll give you the correct information for all jurisdictions.
Next, we'll go in a little bit of background, particularly how stormwater influences and impacts water quality.
As you know, when it rains, it's not all absorbed into the ground. It runs off and collects, which is why we have storm drains. However, any trash, vehicle fluids, debris, and sediments are also taken along for the ride into the drain system, which of course ends up in our lake and waterways, and then impairs the quality of water that we enjoy, as well as the animals and fish that make it their home. That is why we have stormwater management, to reach out not only to those who live in our communities, but those who visit and do business in our county and cities. Knowledge is indeed power, the power to keep litter from our streets, parks, and waterways, the power to wash our vehicles in the appropriate places, not our yards and driveways, and knowledge to put in place effective policies and procedures to help ensure that our actions decrease the impact of pollutants in our water sources. One aspect of stormwater management is having best management practices. Not only having policies in place, but creating methods and controls and maintaining them to help minimize pollutants from reaching the water source. As you can see from our examples, keeping our drains free of trash and debris, cleaning areas on and around the house, yard, and drive will help storm drain systems. There are many best management practice control methods, not only used in construction projects, but in our everyday life. Controls that assist in erosion and sediment filtration, as seen here, and also areas that have swales or catch basins, such as our parks and parking lots. Yet our most important best management practice is knowledge. It is critical that this information gets out to everyone, especially now. Seeing and hearing the information, whether it's a sign in a public space, posted online or on social media, seen on TV or heard on the radio, or by word of mouth, the more you know, the more you can do to help protect this critical resource.
So some brief background on stormwater management. So at the national level, it's called the National Pollution Discharge Elimination System, or NPDS. And this trickled down to a permit at the state level. For us here, we are phase 2 because we have a population that's smaller than the larger urban centers like Sacramento, Los Angeles, San Francisco. Those are phase 1. So we had our first permit between 2003, 2008, and this is called the State Stormwater Municipal Permit, or MS4. And within that permit, we had a requirement to develop a plan. You can see the copy of the plan cover sheet on the right. And also included with this permit was our TMDL, or Total Maximum Daily Load requirements, that started in 2006. And this was directed for Clear Lake water quality and incorporated into MS4, or our permit requirements. In 2008 to 2011 was just a continuation or reissuance of that 2008 permit. And then a new permit started in 2013. It technically expired in 2018, but we're now in the continuation or reissuance of that permit cycle. And within that current permit cycle, there were some amended orders or added orders to that permit, such as the TMDL attachment, which is a continuation or a follow-up for TMDL, a trash amendment, which we have created a plan for, and you can see that cover sheet on the right, and then a pesticide pyrethroid monitoring, which I've come before your board before and talked about, and that's monitoring urban outflows for urban pesticide use, like pyrethroids. We are expecting a new permit in 2023 from the state. However, they're still working on it. And the permit system at the national level has been reviewed, and it shows that national stormwater policies do work. So this is rooted in the 1972 Clean Water Act, which is the federal policy that directs state stormwater permits or through that MPDS program. So the Clean Water Program both manages and complies with our state stormwater permits and the Clean Water Act. And the review of the Clean Water Act demonstrates that it actually is working to clean water. There's some caveats, however. It is very expensive. They have made grants available to implement Clean Water Act programs, which is kind of equal the cost-benefit ratio and making attainment possible for cleaning water. However, it's still very expensive. And since 1972, there has been reviews done, analysis, and it has demonstrated that there's less pollution and more fishable miles of streams in our country than there was in prior to 1972. However, there's still a lot of work to be done. We have about 50% of streams and lakes are still considered polluted, and so there'll probably be some refinements and adjustments to this policy from the federal, state, and local level in the coming years. And the graphs on the right, these are taken from that review paper, and they demonstrate the red line is when the Clean Water Act went into effect, with the years on the bottom axis, and the top panel is streams that are non-swimmable across the U.S., and the second panel is total suspended solids, which is materials that are floating in the water. And so you can see there was a decline since the Clean Water Act was enacted. There was a decline before the enaction of that because there were some other policies that were in place. But what you want to take away from here is since the Clean Water Act has been implemented, that we've seen improvements and trends in water quality across the country. And so this also demonstrates that local policies can work. So for example, we have invested a lot of time and money, and we are continuing to do that for the Middle Creek Restoration Project. The Middle Creek Restoration Project area is indicated here in the dark shaded area in Upper Lake. And this project, once it's completed, is expected to address 40% of nutrient inputs into Clear Lake. We care about nutrient inputs because they drive cyanobacteria and algae blooms within the lake. And there's been a strong connection between stormwater inflows and lake water quality, drinking water quality. And so this is just one aspect of a large-scale project that'll address nutrient input. However, you have the whole rest of the watershed and the land that surrounds Clear Lake. Next, click, Daniel. That also contributes to nutrient loads in the lake. And this is very established in the literature that stormwater and land management practices can influence water quality. So these urban and unincorporated areas around the rest of the lake can address the remainder of those nutrient inputs, so up to 50%. And again, this is well established in literature. We have case studies, not just in California, but other counties within California. And this is really important for us because Clear Lake is our drinking water source. And we have some very high treatment costs. So water sourced from Clear Lake has some of the highest treatment costs in the state. So this is a burden to our consumers in our county. So improving stormwater quality, reducing inputs from stormwater, both in large-scale projects like Middle Creek, as well as urban areas, through the Stormwater Clean Water Program, we'll be able to lessen some of that burden and improve the county as well as the lake. So the next section, we'll talk a little bit about the structure of the Clean Water Program and some of the accomplishments that we've had over the last few years. And I put a picture here of Lakeside County Park because actually park maintenance is part of our permit requirements. So making sure that pets, are getting picked up after, there's not trash there, even something like a barbecue where you could have ash could go into the water body right there. All of this park maintenance is part of our permit compliance. And so that's why I thought this photo was appropriate.
So in 2004, the Clean Water Program was established. In 2019, this agreement was updated, and this agreement names the cities and the counties as co-permittees to comply and work together with the permit to meet all requirements and boost effectiveness. You can find this agreement in more detail at our Water Resources website under Programs and Projects. And you just scroll down to Clean Water Program again, and then Program Documents and Links, and you can select it from this tab right here. This is the original one, the 2004, when it went into place, Stormwater Program Agreement, and then the updated one is the 2019 one. The agreement names the county, city of Lakeport, and city of Clear Lake as co-permittees. However, the Water Resources Department is named the coordinator of the program, just to get everyone together in quarterly meetings, establish work groups, and meet the requirements of the permit. However, each jurisdiction is responsible in meeting their own requirements for the permit.
Kylie or Mark?
Good morning, everybody. So Kylie's having technical difficulties, so I'm going to do my best to present her slides on her behalf, so bear with me. So this slide's the background. It's for the MS4 boundaries, and let me pull my notes. So the MS4 is MS4 is the municipal separate stormwater sewer system. On the map there, it represents that the MS4 permit only applies to those shaded areas. And the Clean Water Act and ordinances is written to protect the water quality of the entire county itself. So it includes reporting, tracking, implementation. Majority of the MS4 area does flow into the Clear Lake, and the unique MS4 coverage is compared to the rest of the California on the MS4s, just as co-permittee, spatial extent and coverage, the streams, the creeks, and the lake. And the overall goal is to apply stormwater management countywide to protect the flows across the jurisdictions.
The Clean Water Program has been very focused in the past few years to not only address the past, but bring us up to date and think ahead to how much more we can do to help recover our impaired water body. First, we renewed the multi-jurisdictional agreement so we'd have collaboration and unity in addressing the tasks set forth by the state, and reestablished the Management Council to have oversight of the program. Then, with cost share agreement and working with our contractor EOA Incorporated, we created plans required by the state and monitoring sites.
Some additional accomplishments between the period of 2019 to 2021. This is funding related, so we were approved $1.9 million from Blue Ribbon Committee, and we were awarded and approved and currently in contract for half of that, so $700,000 for our trash cleanup and illicit discharge development program. And then we will be getting the rest in 2023 under the governor's budget May allocation for next year. And I've already come before your board before and talked about this funding source. But those are the breakdown of how those funds will be used for a lot of program improvements, assessments, from ordinance updates to protocols, a review of how we implement this program within our departments, and then outreach and education so we can create a legacy for this program are all significant aspects of that funding. And we did come together and write a letter of support for a program coordinator to manage and continue this program, and that is currently in development for getting a contractor to do that work. And really excited about that so we can maintain this program. So next, we're going to talk about the work group structure and accomplishments. And I put this photo here. This is one of our work groups in action. So what we got a report of some paint being poured down a storm drain. I believe this was in Upper Lake. So here you see one of our staff out there, and he actually got in that drain, put in some of this absorbent, it's boom filler basically, down there to absorb all the paint that was in that drain before it could fill up with rainwater and flow into our lake.
So this slide represents, it's an overall diagram of the structure of the work group. So this chart represents the structure of the Clean Water Program. And at the top, of course, there's the council, which meets once every quarter. Then below that, then we have the diagram that is broken into sections, and the sections are dependent on the requirements that they need to meet for the MS4 requirements and achievements. Then you have your public participation and involvement, where individuals can address public concerns and bring up other concerns that need to be addressed.
So some of the accomplishments for our work groups, we're going to go through each work group here briefly. This is the public education and outreach program and the public involvement program, even though recognize the public involvement program, or PIP, is integrated in all aspects of the permit. So all of the work groups are open to the public, advertised. A lot of them have public participation, citizen membership. And so that is a way that we involve the public at all levels of this permit. So for the POP, PIP, we met about 10 times between the period of 2020 to 2021. We have about 4 to 8 members on regular attendance, and this includes members from the county, city, both cities of Clear Lake and Lakeport, and citizens. We've created some brochures, both hard copy brochures and digital brochures that are on our websites. We have some digital PSAs. So there's an example of that to the right, which went out through social media to people's phones. We also had a drain marking program, and you've seen examples of that on drains there. Yeah. We have an online story map. That's new, and it kind of walks through what stormwater is, where the drains are in the county, what are watersheds, how people can improve water quality, what kind of behaviors they can do to improve that. And then we also have a video PSA that we developed. We're not going to show that here, but I have been told Sam's going to play it during the breaks today, during the meeting, so you guys will be able to see that. We've also distributed it on our social media. And I believe the audio is a PSA for KPFZ, and there's some guest narrators in there, so see if you can guess those voices.
Okay, so the CON-PCON, which is a construction, pre-construction, post-construction work group, addresses how construction projects impact our stormwater from the pre-construction part, permitting processes, plan review, and construction, the on-site development, and post-construction, where construction is ended, and how stormwater measures are in place and maintained for years to come. The work group originally decided to meet quarterly, but due to construction projects increasing and a lot of changes occurring, it was decided that monthly meetings would be more productive. So our first monthly meeting was on Wednesday, May 18th at 3 p.m., and it will continue every month from now on the third Wednesday of the month at 2 p.m. The current members are from each jurisdiction as well as the construction community. Anyone interested in attending or joining this work group, please know all are welcome to do so. One component we felt is vital is having current and consistent information in the forms used when taking in and issuing permits for construction and grading. The work group has been reviewing and updating the forms and handouts as well as the policies and procedures to be more effective and improving our stormwater education with staff and the community, as well as comply with the MS4 Phase 2 permit. The work group also created a flyer regarding illicit discharge, you can see to your right, and steps to take in the detecting and elimination of it. We wanted it to be friendly and easily understood while impacting the reader as well. The work group also encourages participating in training opportunities and readily shares any upcoming events. If only a few can attend, they do bring back as much information as possible to share with the group. The upcoming year looks to be busy, and the work group will be focused on the items listed here, prioritizing and monitoring progress. We have no outside funding source established at this time, but even with that, the work group will stay focused and determined to do all that is possible to assist in improving our water quality efforts.
So the additional work group accomplishments for Muni is, municipal good housekeeping and pollution prevention. So it essentially meets 4 times a year virtually, and it consists of 5 to 6 members. It involves public works from Clear Lake and Lakeport, stormwater coordinators from the nearby jurisdictions as well, and water resources. So some of the accomplishments that we've been working on is, GIS standards for mapping and reporting. Document trainings for Clear Lake Public Works is in progress at Lakeport and the county. And then current progress and project plans, create updated stormwater policies for staff and construction, create post-construction guidelines for stormwater, review current handouts and brochures and update them as necessary, and then create a construction project inventory, which is currently in the works as well. And then at this time, there's no established funding source at this time. That was your slide, Bonnie, my bad.
The IDDE work group is the illicit detection and discharge elimination program. We are kind of like a combination of the Muni and trash work groups. So it's made up of stormwater coordinators from both cities and the county. We have about 6 to 7 regularly active members. We meet 6 times per year since 2020 virtually, and we meet the first Wednesday of every other month. So then our next meeting will be in June. Some accomplishments that we've accomplished are we've coordinated outreach across jurisdictions for free dump days, community cleanup days to prevent illicit discharges. We've developed an IDDE guidance plan. It's in draft form, so it'll tell us how we can respond to such spills all around the county, and we aren't low on resources, and we know when and how to respond more effectively to decrease the environmental degradation that happens with these spills. We've secured Blue Ribbon Committee funding for program development for the next 3 to 5 years, since we didn't have any secured funding before. And our current progress and project plans and upcoming plans are to update the storm drain inventory. On this panel, you can see all those little yellow dots are all either culverts or outfalls and storm drains. So those are mechanisms on how to get into water bodies and to pollute them. So we need to be updating those, and it's a requirement of the permit so we can see where these illicit discharges are occurring and to stop them and correct them. We are trying to standardize protocols for spill response and finalize and implement the IDDE guidance plan. The trash work group is a trash prevention and implementation work group. We've noticed a lot more illegal dumping going around, so that is our main focus. Our work group is made up of 6 to 7 members as well, from stormwater coordinators from both cities and county, members of the public, and representatives from each public works jurisdiction. Our accomplishments include street sweeping maps for the county. So we have this on our water resources story map for stormwater. You can go on and see if your street is street swept by Public Works, and that is one of the trash prevention mechanisms. We've hosted coastal cleanup days since 2018. We did not have one in 2020 because of the COVID-19 pandemic. We've met the requirements for the 2019 trash implementation plan up to now, which requires trash assessments of selected streets every odd year to provide data for management of high trash generating areas. And we meet every other month on the Tuesday. So our next meeting will be in June as well. Our upcoming projects with the Blue Ribbon Committee funding that we've also secured for this trash work group across jurisdictions. We're hoping to build upon our Coastal Cleanup Day community cleanup events and host at least 6 to 12 annual large-scale cleanups across the county for each jurisdiction. So it won't be just county, it'll be in cities because trash comes from everywhere and all of our waterways are impacted. We're planning to have stream and lakeshore tire disposal collection because with the drought, we see all of the tires that have been dumped in the lake and in the creek beds. And we are hoping with these funds that we can implement mechanisms to decrease the high generating trash assessment areas that we have collected data on so far with our trash implementation plan.
So this is the miscellaneous category, some work group accomplishments for our Program Effectiveness Assessment and Improvement Plan, or PEAP. This was a requirement under our permit that expired in 2015. We were able to complete that in 2021 with assistance from our contractors at EOA. And now we're just in the annual reporting stage of that program, or that component. And then the total maximum daily load, or TMDL work group. We are in compliance with this. We were out of compliance in 2017. We worked hard to get to this point where we're in compliance. I will give a shout out to Lakeport. They've completed all their requirements for the TMDL. And so they are just in the annual reporting stage for that. And the city of Clear Lake is on the same pathway to get that completed and check that off their list. Some of the final requirements are in review right now for the county TMDL. So we're just having our reduction plan under review with the water board, and then we'll have to implement that plan. But some of the things we've accomplished through that compliance structure has been to do a BMP assessment, so best management practice assessment. Where are they? Calculate the BMPs. Not all BMPs are created equal. There's some that are a lot better for this area, reducing phosphorus and other nutrients. So this calculator kind of tells you which ones and what sizings are the best. And then we've done a training to show how to use that calculator. And we had staff from all jurisdictions, some tribes, and departments within all jurisdictions attend that training. And those trainings are all recorded. They're online on our Clean Water Program website too. And then, like I said, the county is in review right now with our reduction plan with the state. And then we'll be in an annual reporting stage for this program once that's completed. So the next steps, this is our last section, only a few more slides, is funding and next steps for this. And this is a photo. This isn't Clear Lake. It's a little too blue for that. But this is a really good summary of why we need this program, why we need to maintain it. Because once we get trash and pollutants in waterways, they're basically impossible to remove. They're there forever. And so this is a good photo that captures that. So some funding sources. There isn't really a designated or sustainable funding source for these programs. We have established some cost shares between the cities and the counties as projects or permit requirements have come up. So for the county, we use both watershed protection district revenues, and then we've also used cannabis funds and have been successfully able to complete a project that we got with one of the first rounds of internal cannabis funds. So we thank the county for that. The city of Lakeport has funds for this program through general fund, and the city of Clear Lake uses engineering fund for their portion of this program. We rely heavily on grants received and in progress, so we really need those outside funding sources for these programs. So we received a grant for outreach products from the Fish and Wildlife Committee that was to do drain marking, and that was also, our PSAs were also included in that grant too. And then, like I said, the county internal cannabis fund, so we got $100,000 for 1 year to do TMDL requirements, the PEAT program, and then initiate our stormwater monitoring, which we had this last year that was very successful. And then, like I said, we have the funding coming down from the Blue Ribbon Committee. The $700,000 is currently in contract, and then next year we'll have the rest of that. And then I really want to thank again the board for supporting the match for this program for the county, so we can make sure that we can utilize all these funds, maintain that program, and as needed when the grants run out, we can apply for more grants to make sure we can sustain all the progress that we made. But in general, this program is not really sustainable. We need to identify more consistent and committed funding sources, particularly so we can have more dedicated program staff that'll provide consistency and sustainability. Some of the problems have been with this program, it's gone up and down depending on the staff levels and the consistency with the program and the requirements and being able to have the expertise to fulfill those requirements. And so a more sustained funding source and dedicated staff will help with keeping that at bay. Some of the next steps, you won't be surprised that they will include continuing with these meetings and the work groups. The work groups are really kind of help get those details down that then the information or projects can be passed up to the management council and then to the boards and councils, and that's where we get the progress for this program. We want to improve program support, again, more staff and more funding, and really analyze. So stormwater is an asset. So the amount of money we spend in culverts and drains and BMPs, those are assets, those are physical assets. It costs a lot of money to put them in and maintain them. We want to make sure they're serving their purpose. And so part of more staff and more funding would go to those things. And there's been a lot of research done on that. That's what that graphic is on the right, is the Sacramento State has actually gone through and analyzed how expensive and the assets that are involved with stormwater management. And we did have some budget requests that were reflecting some of those fundings, which we've already talked about at the county level. And I know that the cities are taking their budget items to their councils during budget planning season coming up here. Some of the outstanding items that we want to attain this year, maybe with some cost shares of some outside funding, includes a low impact development or LID planning document. So this is a permit requirement that, again, expired in 2015. We're out of compliance on this. This is really essential. So this is how in the planning stage of building and construction, we can implement low impact development that'll have positive impacts on water quality, making sure the right BMPs are there. There's also some things included in that can address drought, water conservation, and other aspects that are important to us. And we can customize this to be specific for Lake County. We're talking about phosphorus and nutrient reduction. And we have that started. We just need a little help finishing it. The Stormwater Resources Plan, we need to start and finish. And this will actually tell us and guide us how to use stormwater as a resource. So right now, when we get those big storm events, all our stormwater, we try to get it off the land as quick as possible and into the lake. And really, if there's a way that we could harness some of that water, we could either store it for future use, maybe fire mitigation, groundwater recharge. That's the idea of this plan, is to kind of help us, guide us to do that. It is not a permit requirement, but it is a requirement if we've ever want bond funding from the state, such as Proposition 1 or future bonds. We couldn't get any Prop 1 funding for stormwater implementation over its existence because we did not have this plan, and this plan did not exist for us. And that was a requirement to get those funds. And then we always want to improve outreach and education because the connection between stormwater and water quality is very strong. It's very established. And we know that Clear Lake can never be clean without the full implementation of this program and implementing all our permit requirements. So we did talk a lot about accomplishments today, but I just want to make sure that we realize we're halfway there. We are currently at 50% of meeting our permit compliance among all jurisdictions, and we really need to rectify that if we want to see that benefit realized downstream. And we do expect a new permit at some point. 2023 is the guess from the state, and that'll probably come with some more obligations. I know they're including some school district requirements in there, and some other things that will not only take more staff time, more funding, but also more expertise. And with that, we'll take any questions or answers from the board or for the public. And thank you so much for listening to our review of this today. And again, I apologize for the lengthiness of it, but again, we had to catch up on those years. We couldn't come to the board and present, and hopefully from now on, we'll have a shorter review for you. Thank you.
That was a lot.
Supervisor Sabatier?
I'm thankful for the level of information. This was very brief in comparison to the literature and documents that we go over in the Clean Water Act group that we meet with. As an alternate, I just listen in and learn. That way, when I'm taking over in the position, if Supervisor Crandall's not able to come, I can make sure to be up to date with all the information. It's a lot of information, but it's also very important.
Welcome to Lake County, home.
I got cut off, but it's very important information. And I think that last portion, the stormwater plan and the idea of trying to store water, not only does it have the potential to store water for great use during droughts and replenish our aquifers, but it also has the ability to allow the nutrients to drop down to the bottom so that we can have much cleaner water coming into the lake. I think that to me is one of the most important outcomes that I'm looking for this, but obviously the making sure that our stormwater drainage system also catches the nasty things that unfortunately we see everywhere. So I think this is a really important program. The lake is so important to us. It touches the majority of the county. So I appreciate the work that's been done here. But I have no questions.
Thank you.
Being a part of this has helped me tremendously in advocating specific initiatives when it comes to the lake. When I first got on the board, my thought process is how can I help fix it? And I started looking at different agencies to come and do things like the oxygenation, not the specific group in Blue Ribbon, but I reached out to another group that does the same thing. And then just going through a lot more education with you on this, realizing that even if you were to do that, the sediment still flows in, and none of that's going to solve or heal the problem. So this is probably one of the most important things, and I'm glad that the Blue Ribbon committee is assisting with that, and I'm glad that this program is in place. And I like hearing about the tires. I know that there's a lot of different people that have called about wanting to go on the shoreline because now that the drought's in place, there's a lot of tires that are seen, and it'd be a really good thing to get some of that up. And I have other things, but I think I'll follow up at a later date because they're not something we can really get into right now. So, yeah.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. And so I'll open it up for,
I don't have any questions. Just want to thank you for your presentation and thank you for always being available for the public. I know last night you're available to my Scotts Valley community meeting. They're very concerned about water and Scotts Creek. So just again, thank you for always being available to answer questions and give presentations and educating our public.
Thank you, Supervisor Scott. I know I talked today about outreach and public involvement being a requirement, but I personally enjoy it. And as a public servant, I see that's my role, is to communicate what we do and what we manage to the public. So I enjoy doing that. So thank you for commenting on that.
And you're so enthusiastic all the time. I just love it. So in the areas in the county where there isn't this infrastructure, storm drainage infrastructure, like where I live in Cobb, it's a little bit of the Wild West. And so I just don't know if you want to add anything for communities like that, where there are no gutters and drains and it just kind of goes everywhere.
Yeah, that's a really good point. So our ordinance actually does cover protections under the Clean Water Act. So natural water bodies or even man-made waterways that flow to natural water bodies are protected. And even a ditch on the side of the road, it may not be cement or have a culvert, it may just have like some cutouts. That still is considered the county storm drain system, which is still protected under our Chapter 29 ordinance. So it may not be a cement structure, but there is some structure there. Usually whenever there's a road, there's some structure so the water can flow away from the road, so it doesn't jeopardize that road, right? Not always, but that's generally the case. But that is, our ordinance 29 protects that. And it is outdated, I recognize that, and that's why we got significant funds from the Ribbon Committee to go through and update that, also to update the policies and procedures for enforcing and implementing that ordinance. So we recognize there are areas in the county that lack that structure of the MS4 or the cement structures, structural control, but we're hoping to address that with some of those funds. But if there's something specific that you have, an example, photos, let us know because we don't know. And so, for example, the citizen complaint form, we are not, I think people think that we drive around and look for spills, and we really don't do that. Same thing with stormwater infrastructure. We don't know if there's a failing infrastructure without that knowledge, or if there's something where there needs to be infrastructure put in. If we don't know that, let us know, and that's something that can, we could talk to Public Works about.
Okay, I do have some videos from the big rain years in areas where there's not a ditch. There's really nothing. And it's a lot of the fire impacted areas, so the roads are crushed. There's no infrastructure. There's a lot of other issues. So.
And if there's places where water is collecting, that might be something we could have a high priority project for our stormwater resources plan, where we can actually have some sort of storage there that would either both collect the water and, as Supervisor Sabatier said, to stop, settle, and sink that, so it could either recharge and reduce those nutrients that would flow down, or we could have physical storage that could be used later for fire mitigation or for supplementing during droughts or low water years. Yeah.
Supervisor Sabatier?
And I hope, because I know there's been conversation about reviewing your roads up in Cobb last time we spoke with Director De Leon, that would kind of happen simultaneously, because the flooding of the area ruins the roads, and so the repair of the roads should probably, hopefully we can combine those two things together with the Clean Water Act and the road construction to make sure that those roads last.
The federal infrastructure bill does include and recognizes those things are paired, and there are provisions there for stormwater improvements and water quality improvements that can coincide with building out general or traditional road infrastructure. Yeah.
Supervisor Simon?
Yeah, thank you for the report. Obviously, I think one of the things that struck me too in your presentation is, if your car's in the parking lot or at your house and you got leaky oil, it ends up in the lake. Obviously, and a lot of people just forget those things. So maintenance of vehicles, other stuff, but also to talk about the long-term opportunities for electrification of our own fleet and also other electric vehicles as we move forward, because, fossil fuels are always going to be here, but that transition for Lake County too, I think is a neat opportunity. Even if it's just opportunities for charging stations around the lake, our own fleet here at the county, but also too, I know a lot of it comes from over in your district, you know, when folks are out in the forests and other stuff like that. And I think the technology's coming along for the ATVs and other stuff to be electrified. So now I know that comes with other challenges. There's always a double side on that. There needs to be mining to get the battery components. But it's all stuff and opportunities, I think, for the long-term health of the lake that, you know, we can help do as a county as we're talking about our, you know, our energy policy and electrification of our fleets as we move forward. So excited about that. Appreciate all the information. It is very complicated as we move forward. And the one question I had is the stormwater. I have to rewind it. The stormwater plan we don't have at this point. Do you have an estimated cost on one of those for county-wise, or just an idea, since we don't have one? What something like that is going to look at as we move forward in the budgeting process?
Yeah, so we currently have, thank you for all the great comments and the question. This is a really great question. I'm really excited about this plan. It covers the whole county too. It's not just around Clear Lake. It's for the whole entire county. To give you some scale, a comparable plan that Stanislaus County did, and I only mean comparable in that it's a multi-jurisdiction, so it's several cities and counties that work together. It's a larger area, and they have probably about 10 to 15 TMDLs where we only have one. But they got a grant for $500,000 to do their plan, but that included like a year or two of stakeholder engagement meetings, a website, fully integrated, and then a high priority list of projects, again, that would address their 15 TMDL concerns. So ours is not going to be that big, but that's like the top scale, but that's the same kind of what I'm envisioning that this would be, because it's a really useful document. It's a really useful guidance plan. They're still using it today to implement those projects. We currently have partners at California Rural Water Association and their engineers at SCS that are developing a proposal for that plan, and we're looking around $100,000 for that, and we are applying for funds through the 319H, which is the non-point source stormwater grants through the state that's actually passed down from federal funds for that program, and we're applying for that. That'll be due on the 24th of June to fund that plan. There are some match requirements, which we've already got agreements from the jurisdictions at City of Clear Lake and Lakeport and County to put in for make that match. And then hopefully that plan will put in a website development for that, outreach, community, stakeholder engagement meetings, going to things like the Risk Reduction Authority, seeing what their concerns are, how we can implement this plan or incorporate maybe fire mitigation, stormwater storage, and that. And then develop that plan that way. So if we don't get the grant, then we have to rethink that funding source. But right now, we're going to try to get those funds to do that. And I've been in communication with the Water Board to see if it's a good fit and if we could use it for that. And they're in total support. Yeah, so that's where we're hoping to do that. I hope that answered your question.
Yeah, it did.
Okay.
And, you know, just to talk about that as we're moving forward, I think the Lake County Risk Reduction Authority, you know, that's the once all governments for the county are at that meeting. So I think opportunities coming through to make sure if it's federal funding or state funding, you know, just like we did in the collaboration efforts for the Middle Creek restoration, to make sure we get grant letters and support letters for everything as we move forward. If there's anything we can do as a board to help you do that, please don't hesitate to reach out through whatever committees you guys have. I know that Bruno and EJ sit on that committee, so just making sure we're collaborating on that, because I think it's very important. So we'll just continue growing, absolutely. And I think you know, all entities, and especially with our, you know, tribal government opportunities, comes through the federal government side. So I think each and everything like that just strengthens. We're all working in one unity here in Lake County. That's really putting a light on us, I think. So we'll just continue those efforts. So thank you very much. And like I said, know it's complicated, know it's long-term. You'll be working on this much longer than any of us sitting here and yourselves. So taking care of our lake is very important. So thank you for the reports and appreciate the participation of City of Lakeport and Clear Lake, just everybody working together on this. So that's it. That's all I have.
Thank you very much.
So I'll open it up to public input. It looks like we have a hand up, so if you want to come up and make a comment about this, please come up, and then we'll start your 3 minutes.
Joan Moss, Public. I want to know why we have the most expensive program in the state. Is it because of the lake or what? You said our program, is the most
I
expensive?
think she's talking about water.
clarification.
Yeah.
Yeah, I said the water treatment rates are some of the most expensive.
Water treatment rates?
Yeah, for sourced water from Clear Lake, yes.
Why? What's in the water?
It's just the treatment. We have a lot of organic materials in the water. There's a lot of green living things in the water, and it takes a lot to filter those out and to get to the final product of safe drinking water. This is in comparison to other drinking water sources like reservoirs, which are only about 50, 60 years old. They don't have a 500,000 years of buildup and living materials in there. Reservoirs are also drained every year, right? They let all the water out down their dams and then fills up with fresh new water every year. Clear Lake does not do that, so it's just a constant buildup of materials, organic materials, living things that have to be treated. And this is also in comparison to groundwater sources, which are not as expensive to treat because it's from the ground, it's already been percolated through the soil, it's pretty filtered already.
Okay, I want to know about cyanobacteria and methylmercury. Are you working with the EPA and USGS about that?
This program is not, but this program, if fully implemented and maintained, will help reduce the cyanobacteria presence in the lake.
And not the methylmercury?
Sediment, if any sort of sediments, particles can contain heavy metals, and this program does address the reduction of
Does
that
address
material.
heavy metals.
So yes, however, not every sediment contains mercury, but in general, if you're reducing the sediment from the land going into the lake, you could see improvements.
But you do test for mercury?
Not through this program. Actually, we test heavy metals. Actually, yes, this year we did start our monitoring program. And I will say we have 11 sites around the lake, but we have 2 in South County, St. Helena Creek and Puta Creek. We have 2 sample sites there. And we have include metals on, I think we did a random metal sampling on a couple events. We didn't have a lot of storm events this year, but we included a suite of metals. That includes lead, arsenic, cadmium, calcium, all those things. So I haven't looked at that yet. A report's due in June, so I will get on that. But this is the first year we've actually done a monitoring program around the county.
What about
So
phosphorus?
Joan, maybe you can get that report when she submits it, so you could see all of the different substances you're looking for to have answers for, because apparently they do test.
Can't ask any more questions?
Well, I mean, your 3 minutes is coming close, so go ahead and ask your.
Okay, I want to know about phosphorus. Can you say where phosphorus comes from? Does it come from the roads, from the household, from the vineyards? Do you know?
We don't know. We measure phosphorus. It's total phosphorus for all our sampling, and it doesn't tell you where it's sourced from. It's probably from any sort of sediments in the county because the county's soil is high in phosphorus. The USGS is doing a sediment fingerprinting project through the Blue Ribbon Committee, and that's where they're going to identify sources of that phosphorus. So
Good.
isotopes, tags on that, and they'll figure out by taking samples around the county sediments and then what's in the lake where actually that phosphorus is sourced from. So we can improve management that way.
So Joan, the
One
Blue
more
Ribbon,
question?
no more questions. You're past your 3 minutes, but you can come to the Blue Ribbon Committee meeting tomorrow in Clear Lake, where you can ask some of those questions as well, if you'd like.
Okay.
Thank you.
One more.
No,
BMP,
Joan.
what does that mean?
Joan, it means best management practices, sir.
Fletcher Thornton from Middletown. I didn't come to this meeting to talk about this, but since clean water is the talk, I'd like to address something to the ladies. When I was a young man, about 60 years ago, I used to come to the lake, and we'd go out on the lake, and you could stand in 6 feet of water, see the rocks. It was really beautiful water. And we had a lot of resorts. Resorts were kind of nice. They had little cabins, and they all started up at the highway and went down toward the lake. And these cabins were used maybe 2 months, 3 months a year, and then everybody went home and they sat all winter. That has changed. That has changed. We now have those cabins that have full-time people, sometimes 2 or 3 people living in those cabins, and each one of them have a car, and each one of them drip oil and gas, and it runs, guess where? down the hill to the lake. Now, you say, well, that's the way it is. No, that's not the way it is. You can stop converting what was temporary housing for the summer into full-time housing, because that extra 9 months will kill you. Our lake is a natural lake. It has, it's filling up every year. There's nothing you can do about it. The marsh out here used to be part of the lake. It filled up. It all fills up. Where I live, in Middletown, it used to be part of the lake. It's filled up. So that process is going to continue, and if we don't stop the pollution and all that drainage into the lake, then we're just going to have to suffer the consequences. Now, the only way you can do it is planning and the construction. Don't allow them to convert what was part-time cabins to full-time residences, or they have to raise it up so the dirt and the water and the gasoline and the oil doesn't drain into the lake. And I can tell you from personal experience, there are houses on the lake that are still dumping into the lake, built right on the lake, and they're still dumping into the lake. So until we can solve those problems and get that taken care of, these ladies can work their butts off, but they're not going to make clean water out of Lake County until we stop putting their crap in there. That's just that simple. I want to thank you for the opportunity to speak. Thank you.
Thank you, Fletcher. Are there any other folks that want to give public input? I'm looking online. I don't see any hands up, so I'll bring it back to the board. And I think this is a presentation, so we'll close this item. And thank you for this work and getting us up to speed for the many years that we haven't had a report. So again, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I was going to entertain well, go ahead.
Just real quick, based on that comment, I would suggest if anybody has a personal experience of seeing dumping going on into our lake, that is exactly why we have the complaint link on our website, and we are all impacted by what happens in the lake. So please let us know so we can make sure that we stop that kind of activity, so that we can make those changes, and so that we can know and be aware of it. Or else if we're not aware of it, we can't know everything that's happening in private properties and private residences. We only know what we know. So definitely need the public to help us out with that.
Thanks for that. We'll go ahead and entertain a break for 5 minutes so that we can have a comfort break.
Yeah.
And
Angela.
all right.
Welcome to Lake County, home of California's largest natural freshwater lake.
Originally referred to as Habatin, meaning big water in native Pomo.
Is now known as Clear Lake.
Clear Lake receives most of its replenishing water from creeks, streams, and stormwater.
Stormwater is collected in storm drains, which are a part of a system that moves water from streets, gutters, and ditches into Clear Lake.
Storm drains do not flow to treatment plants, meaning that any trash, garbage, sediments, motor oil, or other pollutants flow directly into creeks, streams, and into Clear Lake.
Once trash or pollutants enter Clear Lake from storm drains, they are very difficult to remove, and most will remain in the lake forever.
Keep storm drain systems clean and pollution-free, and remember,
Only rain down the storm drain. If you have questions about stormwater,
you can call us at
Water Resources, 707-263-2344.
or visit us at our website,